You would not have been dragged here in chains. That is the first thing to understand, because almost everything you think you know about building the Great Pyramid is wrong. You are an Egyptian farmer, and it is the season of Akhet, the annual flood, when the Nile swallows your fields whole. There is no planting, no harvesting, no work waiting for you at home. So the state calls you up, the way it calls tens of thousands of others, through a labor tax as old as anyone can remember. You will be fed, you will be housed, you will be sorted into a crew with a name your team chose for itself, and you will spend the next few months doing the most punishing work the ancient world ever invented. Not because someone is holding a whip over you, but because this is what Egypt does during flood season. This is your national project, and the thing you are building will still stand 4,500 years from now, long after every empire that follows yours has turned to dust. The numbers alone should stop you cold. The Great Pyramid of Khufu takes roughly 2.3 million stone blocks, each averaging 2.5 tons. The granite beams that seal the king's chamber weigh between 25 and 80 tons apiece. Finished, it will stand 481 feet tall, and nothing humans build will surpass it for nearly 3,800 years. And you do all of it with almost nothing. This is the Bronze Age, so there is no iron. No wheels for hauling, no pulleys, no cranes. You have copper chisels, stone hammers, wooden sledges, ropes, levers, and the one engine that matters more than all of them combined, which is your own body. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing 2,000 years later, claimed it took 100,000 men. Modern archaeologists put it far lower, around 20 to 30,000 working in rotation. Herodotus never saw it built and worked from second-hand stories, so take his numbers with a generous handful of sand. And we are not guessing about any of this. Archaeologist Mark Lehner spent years digging up a purpose-built workers' town just south of the plateau, a site called Hayt el Ghurab, the lost city of the pyramid builders. What he found was not a slave camp. It was a working city of barracks, bakeries, and breweries, scaled to feed thousands of people every day. His team estimated that enough cattle, sheep, and goats were slaughtered on site to produce thousands of pounds of meat daily, alongside mountains of bread and a daily beer ration. Not a luxury, a staple. The calories you needed to survive the work. The state was not tolerating you. It was investing in keeping you alive, because a dead worker moves 0 stones. Your first job might be in the quarry. Most of the limestone comes straight out of the Giza bedrock, not far from where the pyramid is rising. You free a block by pounding channels around it with balls of dolerite, a stone harder than limestone, then driving copper chisels and wooden wedges into the cuts until it separates. By hand, in open desert heat, exactly as slow and brutal as it sounds. The fine white casing stones come from Tura, across the river. The granite for the king's chamber comes from Aswan, nearly 500 miles south, floated down the Nile on barges during the flood, when the river runs high enough to carry that kind of weight. And this is not speculation, because we have an eyewitness logbook. The Diary of Merer, found at Wadi al-Jarf, is the oldest inscribed papyrus ever discovered, written by an official named Merer during Khufu's own reign. It records his crew ferrying Tura limestone by boat to the pyramid. A real work diary, 4,500 years old, from a man who helped build it. That is not legend. That is someone's timesheet. Once a block is cut square, it has to move. Workers dragged the stones on wooden sledges across the sand, and a wall painting from the tomb of an official named Jehuti-Hotep shows something strange. A man at the front of a sledge pouring water onto the sand ahead of it. For years, people assumed it was ceremonial, a ritual blessing. Then, in 2014, physicists at the University of Amsterdam tested it and found that wetting the sand at the right ratio cuts the friction roughly in half, slashing the number of people needed to pull a load. The painting was not decoration, it was an engineering diagram hiding in plain sight. Getting blocks to the base is one problem. Getting them up the pyramid as it rises is another, and here, honesty matters more than a confident answer. We still do not know exactly how they raised the stones. The theories run from a single, long, straight ramp to a spiral ramp wrapping the outside, to an internal ramp hidden inside the structure itself. In 2018, researchers found a steep ramp with post holes and staircases at the Hatnub quarry, hinting the Egyptians could haul loads up sharper inclines than anyone thought possible. But none of it is proven for the Great Pyramid specifically. We can see the tool marks, map the quarries, read the foreman's diary, and we still cannot say for certain how they solved this one. That gap is not embarrassing. It is part of what makes the achievement so staggering. They did something we cannot fully reverse engineer even now. What we can see clearly is what the work did to the people who did it. Skeletons from the workers' cemetery, excavated by Zahi Hawass, tell the story the stones cannot. Spines degenerated from years of hauling, joints worn to the bone, but also healed fractures, arms and legs set and splinted properly, even survived amputations, proof these workers got real medical care on site. The pyramid was brutal, but it was not disposable. The state needed you functional, and when you broke, someone tried to put you back together. Still, the work aged people fast, and many of the men in that cemetery died in their 30s. And being buried there, in the shadow of the king's pyramid, was itself an honor, a share in the pharaoh's immortality. Your crew even had a name. Some of them painted it onto the stones in places no one would ever see. Gang graffiti from teams who called themselves things like Friends of Khufu and Drunkards of Menkaure. Not the marks of people who were forced, the marks of people proud of their crew. And this is the part that reshapes the whole story. For centuries, the Western image of the pyramid came from Herodotus and was cemented by Hollywood and the Book of Exodus. Endless lines of slaves under the lash. The village, the cemetery, the beer rations, and the gang graffiti dismantled that completely. But the deeper reversal is better. A project this size demanded things Egypt had never needed before. A census to track the workforce, a food surplus large enough to feed tens of thousands of non-farmers, a supply chain 500 miles up the Nile, and a bureaucracy able to coordinate all of it for 20 years. Many historians now argue the pyramid did not just require a unified state to build it. Building it may have forged that state in the first place. It was not just a tomb. It was an organizational engine that taught a civilization how to act as one. And no, aliens were not involved. We can see every chisel mark, every quarry face, every ramp trace, and we have the foreman's diary. The credit belongs to people. Taking it from them is not a mystery, it is an insult. The finished base is level to within about 2 centimeters across 230 meters. The sides line up with the cardinal directions to a fraction of a degree. They hit that precision with ropes, water levels, shadows, and the stars. No lasers, no satellites. Just patience, skill, and a civilization that understood that if you are building for eternity, you do not cut corners on the foundation. And it still stands. The only one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still here. The Colossus, the lighthouse, the hanging gardens, all gone. The Great Pyramid remains, scarred and stripped of its white casing, but structurally intact after 45 centuries of earthquakes, invasions, and desert wind. You would have worked yourself old building it. You would have broken bones, worn your joints to nothing, and likely died younger than you should have. But you would have helped raise the one thing humans ever built that outlasted every empire that came after it, including the one that built it. And somewhere deep inside, on a block no tourist will ever see, your crew's name is still there, painted in red ochre in the dark, exactly where you left it.